Hey now, welcome to the Dirty Side of the Track, America's leading Formula One podcast. I'm Brian, that's Rob. It is the second coming of the off season, the silly season, the middle of the season, the summer break, the fall break. I don't know what's happening. Why is this such a long break? Oh, we're going to get through it all together, right, Dirty Siders? How are you, Rob?
I'm good, but to coin a Seinfeld phrase, I think this week we have a show about nothing.
We do.
Um,
We certainly
we've
do.
literally had one of the quietest weeks in the world for news. We've got one big story that we're probably going to try to drain and make almost the content of the show. Um, and then we've kind of got some ways that we're trying to
Yeah.
pass the fall lull, as I'm calling it.
How do you cope
And
with the fall lull?
yeah, and some fantasy updates. And yeah, so buckle in for the next 5 minutes because then we'll be done.
No, we got stuff to talk about. We got stuff to talk about. Should we get right into the news and social as we usually
Let's
do?
do it. Let's do it.
Well, you found
Um,
this first one first.
well, yeah, I found this first one first before the main news of the week broke, where I basically just typed in F1 news and got like nothing apart from one story, which was Red Bull head of race strategy, Will Courtenay, has decided to leave after 14 years and he's off to McLaren as sporting director. So yet another senior person leaving Red Bull. There is literally soon going to be the phone calls for us, Brian, to go and take charge of Red Bull.
I'm in.
They got nobody left. They got nobody left.
Sign me up. Yeah, and I'll be honest, right? So I thought Red Bull strategy was Hannah, what's her name? Schmitz? That's wrong.
Yep,
Is that right?
I think so. Let's go with it.
I
People will
think
tell
that's
us if
wrong,
people will
but
tell us if
that's
we're wrong, but let's just go with it.
I'm close with the name. I'm drawing a blank today. Point is, so this was obviously the head of race strategy, and I did see that Ruth Buscom Divey, who we watch on F1 TV now, and who just got married, hence the addition of Divey there. She had a really nice tweet about Will, and not like we know Ruth or anything, but for her to come out and say this is a pretty powerful tweet. Huge. I've had the pleasure of knowing Will for nearly 15 years. He's incredibly talented, a phenomenal leader, whilst also being a genuinely lovely human I and many others aspired to emulate as we grew into F1 strategy. In my opinion, a bigger papaya W than Lando Norris's Singapore margin. So, like, this, I mean,
Ooh.
that is a pretty, that's not like you go out and go, he's a good dude, good luck. I mean, that's really like a lot to it. So, and having watched Ruth now since she started, I feel like Miami on F1 TV, she's not one that I've watched, at least on TV, known for flourish on things like this. So I'm curious to see if this really is as big a move as Ruth and others are making it out to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would be brutally honest. I don't know a lot of these names. I just once they kind of are all kind of being Red Bull related. That's all that's really caught my eye
Yeah,
is
yeah.
yet another kind of senior person leaving. But
Agreed.
I will say I'd never heard of this guy before. But yeah, sounds like a great stellar dude.
There you go.
Um, okay, right. So Michael Andretti is apparently stepping down as owner of Andretti Global and going to take a more strategic role. So probably still being paid mega bucks, but not going to be the owner anymore. Um, and the only reason this caught my eyes, there was this kind of story saying, is this a move to try and help the company's bid to get into F1? And at first, I was like, well, why? Why does that make any impact whatsoever? And I kind of just went down the rabbit hole a little bit. And they were basically saying, I can't remember which news outlet I got this from, but they were saying that Liberty Media's decision to reject Andretti was basically personal, nothing to do with the actual entry. They basically came out with some answer that said, "Oh, Andretti would not be competitive. They dilute the value of the series, they take away attention and therefore money from the established teams," which is all well and good as long as you pretend that all the current F1 teams are competitive and do bring value and all add to the pot of money, which we agreed at the time they don't. So, would you have been any worse off having Liberty in? Sorry, Andretti instead of say Sauber at the moment that are just knocking around at the back doing
Right.
nothing. So they then said, the real reason is a personal feud between Liberty Media CEO Greg Maffei and the Andretti family. Apparently, this is quoted that's never been refuted that this quote actually took place back in the Miami GP. Greg saying to Mario Andretti, Mario, I wanted to tell you that I'll do everything in my power to see that Michael never enters Formula One. Hmm. In fact, so much so that F1 apparently, again, allegedly, supposedly, contacted General Motors directly and encouraged them to join F1 with anybody but Andretti.
That's
I
insane.
mean, it is, isn't it? It's like, Seriously? I want to know what's gone on.
I do too.
Why have they got so much beef?
I don't know. That is absolutely crazy. And then at the same time, there was a filing, and I'm not going to pretend to know too much about the filing, but I read it on many different reports, so enough that we will at least give it some credit and credence. There is a SPAC, special purpose something something, which is basically a way of going public with a we're just going public with a company option instead of saying what it is, and that Zach Brown is a 5% owner in the SPAC called Andretti Acquisition 2 because there was already an Andretti Acquisition 1, but that Michael may also be part of it as well. So is this a way for Andretti Racing to not necessarily be as tied to a Michael Andretti, for him to still remain as a part owner, but bring in others who have kind of some of this gravitas with F1, with Liberty Media? Who knows? I don't know. We'll see more about that SPAC. SPACs are a weird thing for those who are outside the States. It's come up recently, and a lot of companies have done this where they create these SPACs and then they go public and they think it's a fast way to a lot of money. And for some it is, and for some it's a fast way to going out of business. So we'll see what ends up happening. And then, of course, the news, which... Go ahead.
Let's skip this because this is going to be our meat and potatoes of this episode, talking about this news, right? Do you want to hit the bits that you found from last week, and then we'll come to this?
Perfect. So last week, Rob talked about Martin Brundle's grid walk and how there was a Fernando Alonso $5 Costco step stool that he used to get into his $400 million machine. And you thought it was funny. You failed to mention that Martin also talked to my favorite, Nicholas Timbasis, who we've quoted on here many times as the FIA single-seater director. I don't know what Nicholas Timbasis does. I don't know anything of his background. I'm just excited that we had a Nicholas Timbasis sighting on the grid walk, and you failed to mention it for me, man.
I didn't see that. I mean, apparently he directs single seats. So, yeah. That's...
And two other notes before we come back to Danny Ric. One, this one actually was sort of powerful. There was a lot of conversation about the V-carb strategy. They've done a lot of offset strategies. They've done a lot of people starting on like the tire you wouldn't expect. And yes, maybe they're trying to stretch at best a midfield car into the points. I get that, but it really hasn't worked. And they've made a lot of bad decisions with these strategies. And on a video I was watching, someone pointed out in the comment section at Aggressive Hike, which is the YouTube name. I want to get the attribute properly. Has nobody realized that since Laurent Mekies left Ferrari, their strategy has improved, while V-Carb's AlphaTauri's has gotten much, much worse? Oh my God, they're right. This is a great comment. I read this and my brain exploded. We haven't had as much of the question, in the Ferrari situation that we used to see all the time. It's been much more consistent. They've actually pulled positions and a win out because of strategy. And V-Carbs has gone into the toilet. I saw Laurent at Silverstone. I walked by him in the paddock and I gave him the head nod, and he gave it back to me. And now I feel like I'm cursed with my own bad strategy. Oh, man, and before we close out the news, just a quick comment. A dirty sider, an OG dirty sider, Coach Mike, or Mr. H, as he's known. He did the 100 seconds with us a while ago. He has two things that we have to highlight, and we've been trading a bunch of notes, Mike and I, on this. First off, he teaches an 8th grade class, Mr. H, and they do a picks league. And there's like 10 or so kids in this picks league who are becoming F1 fans if they weren't already. So Mr. H's 8th grade class shout out. Great job. I hope you guys are kicking some butt in your picks league. And I want to see you beat Mr. H is what I want to see all you guys do. The second part, which is awesome. Mike just got his plane ticket for his first F1 race. This year, he's heading to COTA. And
nice.
So I know, isn't it? I'm as excited as he is, I think, for him. And so Coach Mike or Mr. H, Mike, he's agreed and to give us an audio file, just a couple minutes, towards the end of the race, somewhere before that. It doesn't have to be about the race. Just your thoughts on your first Grand Prix, and we'll play that. And any other pictures or video you want to send Rob and I to check out, we will nerd out over, as you know, Mike. But kudos and congratulations, and I hope Mr. H's 8th grade class picks have a good time watching the U.S. Grand Prix in about 14 years from now when Mr. H is there. But, Rob, you want to talk about Danny Ric a little bit?
I do, but actually just before we go there, look at this milking the content this week. Actually, you mentioned that Coach Mike came on and did 100 seconds of DRS. Now that we're into the Lullsville, this season seems so crazy that we seem to have been like back to back to back to back, and there's always been a race. And we don't feel like we've had as many listeners on to kind of talk about, F1 origin story. I think Hells was the last one we had on. That was a few weeks ago now. So if you're out there and you're listening and you want to come on, you want to do 100 seconds of DRS, maybe take on the quiz as well, or say no to both of those and just come and chat F1 for 25 minutes, then we need to get some more Dirty Siders back on because it's been a while.
Well, part of it has also been we haven't had a week where you and I are both home in a while. We've both been on the road a ton.
Yep.
Andy Tails has volunteered to do the quiz, and I've been sitting on that for a couple weeks. I know I've seen it, Andy. I said no. He wants to do the quiz badly. So
okay.
We have to find time to do that. And there have been other people.
We've got this never-ending lull that's going on. We must be able to find, even if we have to do a weekend record, we're going to find time to get some Dirty Siders on because I love that. It's one of the most.
It is
ever since we've been doing this, it's one of my most favorite things has been just meeting new people and talking about F1 origin stories. So
and like
let's
we
get it.
Meet a person we never would have met, like Coach Mike. And now he's heading to COTA, and I'm as excited for him as he is. And I don't have to spend any of the money, so it's perfect.
Someone not heading to COTA.
Oh, dang. That's a rough segue, because I'm assuming you're talking about me.
Segue.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Brian's not going. Okay, so Singapore, there was this really, really awkward weirdness around Danny Ric of, is this his last race? And even when they asked him about it, he had to do this really kind of corporate marketing line of, oh, I'm not sure. Yes, I feel like it is, but no, it might not be, because I'm not allowed to say. And it was just weird. And then Brian pointed out that after the race, kind of they gave him a guard of honor, like a little secret one, like round the corner where that nobody could see. And it's like, okay, so maybe it is then. They're just sort of saying bye to him just in case. And then this week it drops. They come out with the announcement that Danny will be leaving the team, and they allowed all of us to kind of soak that in and think about Danny Ric's long career, and they just let that lie before announcing Liam Lawson. They let it lie for about 32 seconds. Literally, if you look on their social media post, there's a thanks, Danny, goodbye, thanks for all the memories, and almost immediately after they've put the welcome Liam and all kind of the hurrahs for him. And it just felt, the whole thing just felt wrong they knew it was his last race last week. Why not let him talk to the media about it? Why not let him he's been such a character. Okay, maybe not have been the driver that maybe many thought he was going to be when he was at Red Bull, but he's had such a long career in F1. Why not give him that moment to kind of talk to all the journalists and go, yeah, it's my last one, blah, 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 blah. It just felt like he was kind of snuck out the back door. It just didn't sit well with me at all.
I agree. I mean, you said this well on Twitter and other places better than I. Yeah, I was confused. What was the downside to announcing this before the race and letting him have a public acknowledgement of what he's meant to F1 and let people thank him in that way? And maybe, I can't remember, but I'm pretty certain his parents weren't even there. And, his folks have meant a lot to him over the course of his career. So, yeah, I don't know what the downside would have been before Singapore saying, hey, this is going to be Danny's last race at AlphaTauri V-Carb, Minardi, Toro Rosso. And so we will thank him greatly, and we'll have Liam in the car after Singapore when he has 4 weeks to figure out the car, which is what it'll have. I don't know why they didn't do that. I agree. And it just felt like I can't figure out what the downside would have been.
No, and then one of the maybe unintended downsides, which you can't blame the social media admin for this, they were probably just told, here's 2 posts, you need to put them out back to back, is that there was a huge amount of toxic backlash to both the VCARB social admin for the way that they announced it, and then, oh my gosh, did Liam Lawson get hate on his it should have been his big hurrah moment of I can't wait to get in the car and blah, blah, blah. There are all the Danny Ric fans are all just piling in and just giving this young kid like grief. I'm like, and again, had they thought this through a little bit, had they maybe dropped the news that Danny Ric was going to be leaving on, say, Tuesday, and just let it lie for 24 hours and then announce Liam on the Wednesday.
Instead of 30 minutes later or whatever it was.
Yeah, it wouldn't have made a big difference to any clicks or views. And everybody probably knew who was coming into the car anyway, but just let the news sit for a bit.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a cluster, I think, the way they did that.
But it gives us a chance to reflect on Danny Ric's career a bit. And we're not going to go into a huge Vale's tale type thing because everybody knows Danny Ric. However, we do want to hit some of the stats of his amazing career. Sap Stats Danny Ric Farewell Edition. Rob, you have the first one here. I'm going to let you do the first sap stat, buddy.
Only because I was scrolling through all the various different stats you'd expect to see, and that we will cover in terms of like race statistics. But I just saw one that basically said, "Never forget that Danny Ric will always be remembered for having the fastest driver time in the Top Gear hot laps." So they did the star in a reasonably priced car, and they did a separate leaderboard for F1
The
drivers.
Suzuki
And we
Liana,
had,
if I remember right.
oh yeah. And down at the bottom, we had Jenson Button, who got by a tenth by Mansell, who got by 2/10 by the Stig, who pipped by a tenth by Rubens, by 3/10 by Vettel, Webber in at 143.1, Lewis Hamilton in at 142.9, and top of the board, 7/10 clear.
Wow.
Danny Ric, a 142.2. So if he isn't driving an Alpha Tauri next week, he can go and get back into one of those Suzuki Lianas and make a career there.
If only there were a show anymore. So Danny Ric started in F1 at the British Grand Prix in 2011. He did 257 Grand Prix, 8 wins, 3 pole positions, 17 fastest laps, wink, wink, because the last one's a little dirty, and then 32 podiums, which is quite a bit of podiums. 340 laps led, which is 1,656 kilometers, or for those of us who don't know what a kilometer is, it's just over 1,000 miles. He's twice finished third in the drivers in 2014, which was the new regs, the launch of the turbo hybrid era, and he was at Red Bull, and he had 3 wins, and he looked like a world beater as he came on the scene. I remember that season, and I went not all that long ago and rewatched a bunch of 2014 races, and just this kid came in like a house of fire into Red Bull. Amazing. 2016, he was also third, only 1 win. That was the Nico Rosberg championship year. With Lewis in the battle there, so I think points were at a premium and probably pretty spread out, but I can't be sure on that. Anyway, so he started with HRT, actually. That British Grand Prix in 2011 was with the HRT team, and then he went to Toro Rosso in 2012. He was loaned to HRT, so 2012 Toro Rosso for 2 years, and then into Red Bull, as I already said, in 2014 with the new regs, and then 2019 we all remember, at least I remember, his shift to Renault. And I loved it because if you remember the team principal at Renault, no, not for him. I loved the storyline of it. I know why he left. We could debate it. We'll talk about it in a minute. Max and his, didn't want to be such a backseat to Max, and the I don't want to call it a feud, but the way they came together in Baku and other places, and it just, anyway, he went to Renault. He thought it was best for him, and I think he learned having a crap car was going to be hard. I did love him driving at Renault. I did. I was one of the few people. I love Danny Ric. I got Chewy T-shirts that I bought from WTF1 years ago, and I watched him. And Cyril Abiteboul was an interesting team principal, and it was just kind of fun to see him what he could do there. And he was my underdog every race. I was a Danny Ric guy. 2019, 2020. Put that Renault somewhere it doesn't belong to be in that kind of cool black and yellow livery. And then he went to McLaren in 21, and I think most people probably know the story there, where he was next to Lando. He was clearly, not favored the way Lando was, but then just the wheels literally came off. By the end of 22, he was not performing well. He was not the same Danny Ric, and it was sad to see him just doubting himself and sitting in press conferences after races like, I don't know what went so wrong. I don't know what went so wrong, over and over again. However, it gave him 1 win. He got 1 win at Monza in that beautiful papaya McLaren with Lando right behind him. Lando going, can we switch positions? I don't know why they would have, because Danny Ric had led the whole race. And they're like, no, hold position, Lando. That was still one of my favorite team radios. It's like, well, but I'm the favorite child, and can I win this race? No. Sit there in second, bro. And so anyway, a papaya 1-2. At Monza, and that was really sort of the swan song, in my opinion, of Danny Ric's career. Yes, he was a Red Bull reserve PR machine in 23. He came on to Alpha Tauri to relieve Nick De Vries, and then to avoid Oscar in the wall at Zandvoort, he broke his wrist, and then we saw Liam, and now Liam's the next big thing. So I will always hold on to that McLaren victory at Monza as just a special moment for me as a Danny Ric fan. I will miss him. 8 wins. I have one more stat here about it, but I'll stop. Rob, anything you want to highlight that I brought up?
I don't know if this was the stat, and then because I'm not in the notes now, I've gone to a different website just to see that those 8 wins puts in 37th in the list of total number of wins. So he's not like obviously he's not near the top knocking on the leaderboard, but that's quite a way up when you go down to the
Yeah.
number of if you go down to the list of all the way down to the bottom of people with like one win, then you're down into like the 80s or whatever. So he's in the top
Yeah.
third of all time of no mean feat. The only thing I'm going to say, and I don't want to crush your little Danny Hart soul,
That's okay.
but Danny Ric soul, whatever, is that was it that moment in the Red Bull career where he almost like it do you think it was bad advice, bad management? Was it him? Some people I read a bit of an article that kind of went, we saw the real Danny Ric at Red Bull that when he had to either fight and show that he could go up against Max or he could just leave and get away from the difficult situation. He chose the easy route and followed the money, and then from that point on has never been in a car that really probably went with his talents. It's like if he'd have stayed, I mean, maybe it would have been like Nico and Lewis. And okay, they didn't have to be friends, but he would have been in a machine capable of winning races.
Right.
And he just seemed to fold and follow the money to Renault.
I don't know. I mean, there's something you have to believe you're the best. Every F1 driver believes they're the best. To go out there every week and do that battle and literally put your life on the line and I am the best driver in the world. I think they all need that mantra, and all my car isn't as good, otherwise I'd be winning, kind of thing. And I'm willing to bet there was an immature part of Danny Ric, because I'm saying this because I saw him interviewed. Sky Sports had an elongated interview with him in the paddock afterwards, and Nico was actually one of the interviewees. Speaking of Nico, and so they asked him about that move from Red Bull, and he kind of hesitated and said, "Yeah, maybe that wasn't the move my career needed at the time." But imagine you think you're the best and you've won 7 races and you are clearly, in a few years, and you are clearly being treated like the number 2 to a kid who's just on the rise. And they give him everything. And again, the perception, you get nothing. We watched Nigel Mansell count the number of mechanics on his side versus the other side, the driver's other side, and he quit. I mean, I think these guys, especially when they're younger, think I should be treated as the number 1 always. And I'm willing to bet a part of him said he didn't like that favoritism towards Max. And I don't know if it's the fight or the money, but it was him saying, I want someone to love me the way I deserve to be treated, kind of thing. That's my guess.
Yeah, I mean, the other side of that same coin, though, given that the team he chose is, I'd rather be driving a sack of nails around and be number 1 than be in an absolute dominating race-winning car and be number 2. Because Renault didn't have a good reputation at that point. Everybody thought it was a bizarre move to go there.
Agreed, but you tell me they didn't have a big presentation and explain to him how they were going to bring him back to the front of the grid? Of course they did.
But come on, I mean, to me, that's the sliding doors moment. It would have been great to have seen Danny Ric stick it out at Red Bull and see what he could have done. He probably would have been, like you say, he would have been not been the favoured driver, but so what? He still could have maybe made it difficult for Max, like Nico made it difficult for Lewis sometimes. But
agreed, good call.
You'll never know.
Well, the last stat I have on Danny Ric is one of my favorites, and I found this on Reddit, and I checked it, and I'm fairly certain it's right. Fun fact, there are only 2 drivers to win with 2 different constructors since the introduction of the turbo hybrid era in 2014. So in 10 years, we've only had 2 people win with 2 different constructors. One is Danny Ric. Obviously, we're talking about him here, and I just referenced the McLaren victory at Monza, his one with someone other than those 7 with Red Bull, which all came since 2014. The other, Checo, because he won that Bahrain GP at the very tail end of his Force India Racing Point career.
Yep.
And that was his non-Red Bull win. So, like, A, both are Red Bull drivers, have some of the wins with Red Bull, and B, both got their other win at kind of like a car that really didn't deserve it at an interesting time of their careers. Checo trying to hang on to a seat he didn't have, Danny Ric clearly on his way out of McLaren. So anyway, those were the stats. And then one last note, just to tie a bow on this before I let Rob say whatever he likes before we get to the video vault. Right after this was announced, the VCarb announced they're going to take a new engine for Liam Lawson, and he'll get a 10-place grid penalty to restart his F1 career. I thought that was perfect.
It'd be interesting to see Liam Lawson now, because we've had Sargent, we've had De Vries, we've had Piastri, and we've had Colapinto.
And
Who else have
Behrman.
we had rookie-wise for the last year or two?
Behrman.
Behrman. Oh yeah, kind of. He's not really in yet. He had like
Two
a
races.
one-off. I mean, people that have
Yeah.
got like I know Colapino's not got a drive, but he's kind of come in and torn it up. Piastri obviously came in and did absolutely brilliantly. Has pushed on in his second year. Sargent and De Vries, not so much. Lawson's got the kind of expectation of, hey, when I rocked up last time, I looked really good. So, but I think he's coming into a car this time around that isn't quite the car that it was last time. You
Interesting.
remember
Yeah.
that car looked. We used to call it slippery. It was quick. They could always throw one up amongst the points. Right now, it looks like an absolute bag of spuds. Um,
The same way we can't wait to see, actually the way I questioned, and a lot of people on the internet did the same this week, the Colapinto Albon uh, comparison. We need more time. I'm still on Team Alex. Don't worry, everybody. Calm down. But we're excited to see Alex and Carlos next year. Same thing. I can't wait to see Yuki and Liam. I am like tuned in for the next 6 races to see what happens and who might be the truth. And I'm still saying it. I think one of those two replaces Checo next year at Red Bull.
yeah, most likely, most likely. Before we go open up the video vault, we have to point out an error that I was going to say collectively we made, but I think it was more me.
Oh,
We were talking about Lando last week, and we didn't know that his parents were rich,
I didn't know that. Yep.
and I said that his dad was Belgian because he's got
Oh,
citizenship in both countries.
you're thinking of
I was
Max?
right on that part. I'm right on that. Just got the parents the wrong way around. Hell's pointed out to me that the dad is British, and like apparently I should have known who he is because he's absolutely loaded. And it's the mother that's Belgian. So there we go. Apologies to all kind of Lando fans, the way we got the parents the wrong way around. But
I was just surprised he was so rich because, I mean, I don't know. I've just never when Carlando was a thing and they did all those videos together that I loved watching, it seemed like every food was a new experience for Lando. And I just figured if he grew up rich, he knew how to eat all kinds of food from all over Europe. But it was always like, this is just
maybe,
ham.
well, yeah, because maybe he was just always eating caviar. That's all he ever ate, and didn't know all these other foods.
with with the caviar joke, we're gonna open the video vault. Um, all right, so not a ton of news, but yet a ton of content on the video side. So I whittled it down to 5 or 6. We'll just hit the highlights of each, but make sure you know they're out there. Number 1, Ricciardo being the dummy move master in Monza on, I'm going to guess this channel is Yelistener or Yellis Tenor or Yelly Stenner. Doesn't matter. 4.5 minutes. It was fun of just watching Danny Ric through the years pull off some really neat moves, both into the first chicane, but also the second at Monza. 4.5 minutes. It's worth it if you're saying goodbye to Danny Ric the way I am. 10 times F1 drivers proved they aren't human on the F1 channel. 12.5 minutes. Yeah, it's fine. F1 sometimes has great content, sometimes just fills the airwaves with content. Let's just fill the airwaves. The Ultimate Quartet, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Toto Wolff, and Mick Schumacher on the Mercedes AMG channel. 5 minutes. This was great. Rob, did you see this yet?
No, but it's got Mick Schumacher in it, so I'll give it a go.
I know you will. So I saw this. I was excited. I am an AMG guy. I loved this. It could have been better, but it was good. So I suggest anyone who's a Lewis, George, Toto, Mick, Mercedes, AMG car fan, check her out. The C-Squared Challenge, the Singlish quiz with Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz on the Ferrari channel, 4.5 minutes. This was fun. Thank you, Ferrari, for finally giving us a longer C-Squared challenge that I've been banging about all season. I enjoyed it. It was still not as good as the Siva Logistics one I found a week prior, but it was good enough as they tried to create and explain Singlish, which is Singapore in English, portmanteaus type words. Lando Norris teaches Oliver Solberg how to drive Silverstone on the Quadrant Athletes channel. That's Lando's channel. 5.5 minutes. This was fun. Seeing a rally and racing driver and Ollie Solberg sit next to Lando for a hot lap, and then the two of them kind of switching and discussing it. I'm so used to someone sitting next to an F1 driver freaking out, as opposed to Ollie Solberg basically saying, "Oh, did you do that different? How would you have taken apart the lap?" And Lando's like, "Hey, buddy. Like, calm down. I'm the F1 driver here." And my story is this was at Silverstone. When Paul got me into the paddock at Silverstone, the person he had to switch us out with was Ollie Solberg. That's who he walked through next. And so I sent this to my family, and they thought that was funny. And then
did they or did they not care at all?
Didn't care at all. Didn't care at all.
Okay.
But Paul brought us through first, so my wife wrote back, "We were first," and I'm like, "Darn
yes,
we were."
Yeah, you were.
Okay, and then the Madness of Monza, the Italian Grand Prix week by Carlos Sainz. He does these every so often. Don't Blink, they're called. This is episode 7 of season 5. It's on the Carlos Sainz channel. It's 15 minutes. Mamma mia, this was a long. You do not have to go watch this. I enjoyed it, but I also figured out exactly where the Ferrari Hotel in Monza is now, because, if I'm ever in Monza and I want to go get an autograph, I can stand outside the gates of the Ferrari Hotel in Monza. I'm not telling anyone where it is because I don't want to have too much competition. And then finally, the last thing. This was probably my favorite premise, and it underdelivered. Lando Norris teaches Deebo Samuel how to be a Formula One driver. Recognized game on the NFL channel. So American football, Deebo Samuel's a wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers and a very big man. And so for 9 minutes, these two, Lando and Deebo, who'd clearly never met before, were sharing workouts, and their trainers were showing how each other works out. And then they talked about cars a little bit. And Deebo's like, "I don't think I'm going to fit in that Formula One car." "No, Deebo, you aren't. You're way too big. He's a giant man." I mean, he may be a wide receiver. He could crush every single one of us. Anyway, this could have been so much better. I wanted this to be great. I really did. And it was fine. If you're interested, check it out. But I appreciate NFL trying to dip its toes into the F1 fandom. So, Rob, unless you have a video to add, I'm going to close her up.
Close it up.
All right.
Oh, right. Okay. Next week then? No.
3 more weeks.
Oh my gosh. How do you want to hit this bit? Did you prepare your little game for me or not?
I did. But how about you explain yours first, and then we'll do mine, and then fantasy, and then run away embarrassed that was our episode.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. If you've been listening so far, then the previous 35 minutes might have peaked. So we're not offering any kind of. We're gliding down towards the exit music now. Right. Yes. So last week, it was almost a week ago. I was thinking, right, what the heck am I going to do during no races? And talking to my son, we do this thing where we will quite often start new career modes on the FIFA, or EAFC as it is now, game on the PlayStation, right? So this is the same for many games, I guess. Basketball, NFL, you can kind of set your own team up and you can be the manager and you can try and make it. I'm like, right, I've done this many, many times before. This time I'm going to set myself a new challenge. I'm going to create a team, and the rule is going to be the only players I'm allowed in the squad must have names that are linked to Formula One.
I love this.
I'm not going to edit it. I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to start with a team with $1 gazillion and just be able to go and buy anybody. I'm going to start in the bottom tier. So, Brian, we have 4 professional divisions. We've got the Premier League, the Championship, League One, and League Two. I'm going to start in League Two with almost no money, and I'm going to have a squad of Formula One players by the end, and I'm going to get to the Premier League before COTA rolls around in 300 years or whenever it is. So, start this career, quickly start searching the player database just to make sure it's kind of doable, to kind of find out, are there real footballers out there, soccer players, that have got names that tie in.
So American. Nailed it, buddy.
Thanks. Yeah, I know I did. Do they exist? And yes, they do. There was many, many, many. So I'm right, in I go. Open up the squad that it gives me for the default for the new team. Valtteri Bottas is the manager, by the way. I went to great lengths to make sure that the manager has a mullet and a moustache, so it looks phenomenal. And it was brutal because I had to basically let my entire squad go because none of them had a Formula One base name, apart from one. And this is a really tenuous link, but I've kept him. And he's actually my all-time top scorer at the moment now. But his last name is Marshall. So I figured you need marshals at races to wave flags and stuff. So that's a tenuous link that I can start with.
After Singapore, do any of them have last name Lizard?
No, it didn't go that bad. So I quickly didn't have much money, so I went into the loan market, and I was able, before my first game, to get 9 out of the 11 starting players had got Formula One base names. So in goal, I have Bishop, Matt Bishop, friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
My left back, a young lad from Italy called Ferrari. I
Mm,
mean, come on.
yeah,
Uh,
I've heard of them.
centre back, a pairing of Alonso
Mm.
and Jones. And he's actually Australian, so I've
He
got
is
Alan Jones in
Australian?
there. Yeah, he is Australian, which was completely random. And then at right back, I've got a young lad called Walker for Murray Walker. Okay.
Okay. Announcer, for anyone
Uh,
who didn't know that.
yeah, back in the day, the late great Murray Walker. Midfield, I have
Mm.
and Norris and Lewis, and then two other players who don't have didn't have F1 names at the time. They know their time is up. They kind of keep looking around, going, my name's not F1 related. Am I going to be here too much longer? No,
Does
you're out of
Lewis
here
have
as
a
soon as.
special number or anything? Or?
Look, I'll come back to that in a second.
Okay.
And then up front, I have Marshall. And the thing that made me the most ridiculously excited when I was like going through the player listings, trying to find all these players. And by the way, there's lots of them. I've got a couple of Hamiltons, a Hakkinen. There's even a real player from Germany called Haas.
Really?
Anyway, so there's all these players, but I can't afford them at the moment, so I've got them all on my scouting list. So I'm going through every single racing driver I can come up with, and I just type this one in, thinking there's never going to be this. And then this 19-year-old lad from Venezuela has a last name of Maldonado, and he's straight in. Maldonado is straight into my team, and then I have to go through the little.
What's his first name?
Well, his first name's Christian, but yeah, I mean, I obviously
you
couldn't.
can't have both. I mean,
I couldn't make the first names work. That would just literally be impossible. So yeah, and then I went through and I made sure everybody's jersey number is the correct one. So Lewis wears 44, Norris wears 4, Maldonado wears 13. I gave 50. I gave 50 to Ferrari because they've been there since the beginning.
yeah.
So I was like Googling. The problem is some of the people didn't get like proper numbers all the time. So I kind of went back, like for Alan Jones, went back and looked in his 1980. He won the championship in 1980. So I was like, I'll give him number 80 then.
Yeah.
So anyway, just made it to the end this morning. Finished the first season. We had a couple of extra signings come in. So during the January transfer window, we have a couple of transfer windows, Brian, in football where you're only limited to 2 per season. So once I got that first raft in, I had to wait until January to try and go again, where I brought on board who did I bring? Weber. I've got a Weber in the squad now.
Not bad for number 2 driver.
Yeah. Not bad for number 2. And I've also got, and this, it's kind of related to a friend of the show. I have got a player on the list that I'm scouting called Saunders, but Nate Saunders does the pad hoc with Lawrence Barretto, and I now have a Barretto playing in. Yeah, I got a Barretto in the squad, and we were crowned League 2 champions this morning. So onwards and upwards. Wow. That's the first division secured, and now I can get some more money and see if I can go and afford to buy Schumacher and Haas as I look to add to my squad. That's awesome. How I'm passing the lull, by being a sad old man combining video games, Formula One, and football. There it is. That's how little content. That's how little content we have this week, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, no. That was fine. Now is how little content we have, because I created another game. And we've had many games on here, and most of them are okay. But one of them was an all-time turd in the punch bowl, and it was mine. So let's see if I can avoid it again.
I'm so nervous.
With a new Formula One game here on the Dirty Side. It is Would You Rather, the F1 edition Dirty Side, copyright, trademark, whatever. And so what we're going to do is this. Rob has not seen any of the questions.
No.
I'm going to ask him 2 things, and he will have to choose which he'd rather. And then the one that advances will face another Would You Rather, and we will find out Rob's favorite of these scenarios, because one will advance through the 10 or so options here.
10, oh my gosh.
As we finish. And so you'll have to select from each of these choices.
Supercomputer.
If you can have a little press your luck music, you need to have it in your life. This is the old school Peter Tomarken music, but again, I won't. All right, so, Rob, would you rather cheer only for one team forever or cheer only for one driver for the rest of their career?
Team.
That easy.
Yeah. I'm a team person. You can see the Ferrari flag behind me. I'm a team guy.
All right, I kind of knew about the Ferrari.
Races come and go.
Yeah. Okay. So team forever. Now, would you rather cheer only for one team forever or have an all-expense paid trip to the Monaco Grand Prix, but you only get general admission tickets and you can only show up 1 hour before the race?
Just cheering for one team forever is kind of pointless compared to. I mean, does that mean I'm not allowed to cheer for that team anymore?
No, just which would you rather? Okay. Just answer the question. Stop overthinking it. That's my job.
Well, yeah, I know. you've always got these little things hidden, and I'm just waiting for the punchline from you. So, okay, Monaco, absolutely.
But you GA, so you're 1 hour
Oh,
before the race. You think you're going to find a spot to see anything?
yeah, I'm going to go and knock on Dirty Side of Mohan's door that lives in the flats down by the hairpin and watch it from his
Oh,
balcony.
crap. All right.
Yes.
And you guys, by the way, listeners, you should be playing this at home as well and figuring out what would be your would you rather. So,
Rohan, not Mohan, sorry. Sorry, Rohan.
and so you picked Monaco. Would you rather take this Monaco general admission ticket or have Paul Ricard come back on the calendar and you get an
Monaco.
all expense paid to the French Grand Prix, but with Paddock Club, but it's still Paul Ricard?
Monaco.
Really? Okay.
I would rather sit have to be walking around Monaco in my underpants in general admission than and at least to be drinking in the Monaco atmosphere than go to Paul Ricard and just get kind of like
This is working. All right, so
Yeah, okay.
Monaco GA ticket 1 hour before the race,
it keeps going. Come on, Monaco.
or have to root for only Pierre Gasly for the next 5 years.
Huh?
Monaco.
Why is that even in there as an option?
Some people are driver people, and they may choose a driver, and they may not like those options.
Monaco rolls on again.
All right, would you rather that Monaco GA ticket or see Williams win a constructors championship, but the price is Ferrari finishes last in the constructors?
Oh, you've just taken a knife and driven it through my heart. You know I'm a Ferrari fan, but you know Williams got me into this sport.
I know.
Or I can keep Monaco rolling.
You could.
Monaco rolling. Monaco rolling. Do I ask? Can I ask? Am I allowed to go too much detail on this? Williams win the constructors.
I made the game up 10 minutes ago,
Yeah, I know.
so feel free to make up
Williams win the
questions.
constructors. Does that mean Alex is the drivers' champion?
Nope. It means Alex and Carlos do so well together that neither one of them is a driver's champion.
Do you know what? That'd be nice and all, but it doesn't actually put me at Monaco Grand Prix, does it? So Monaco rolls on. Here we
All
go.
right. Would you rather go to the Monaco Grand Prix with a GA ticket or only cheer for Audi Sauber for the next 5 years?
Monaco.
Okay. And this one might be a little targeted for Rob. So everyone playing along at home, I'm sorry for this one. Would you do the Monaco ticket or see Mick Schumacher get a permanent drive, but he takes this last seat at Sauber Audi and Valtteri loses his drive for next year?
I see. You see, if you had tempted me with a good car for the legend that is Mick Schumacher, if you'd have dropped him into something like he's going to be, I don't know, in Red Bull alongside Max, that could have done it. But no, A, we can't kick Valtteri out. B, it's Sauber. Mick's just going to be at the back again, crashing all the time.
We don't
Everyone
know that,
blaming
'cause
him.
Audi could be great. That's my point. There's so much upside.
Monaco.
Oh, wow. And for everybody playing along at home, keep remembering what's winning for you. All right, Monaco, or would you rather have the FIA finally approve an 11th team on the grid, which I know we've talked about and are excited about, but it's backed by Russian oligarchs and Mazepin is the lead driver?
Okay, well, you just completely blown. I mean, that was actually, I was thinking about that one. I was about to trade in Monaco there I'd love to see 11 teams, 22 cars back on the grid, but for that, so Monaco rolls on.
All right. Would you rather have your Monaco GA ticket or have Max Verstappen drive for Haas next year and the entire rest of his career as they give him an ownership share of the team?
From a purely selfish perspective, that wouldn't impact my life at all, whereas I could get to go to Monaco. So Monaco is...
All right, man, this is good to know. All right, Monaco, a general admission ticket with only 1 hour before the race, and you're going to watch it with friends, or have your favorite team win the constructors, but you cannot watch the F1 season at all the next year. So you're guaranteed Ferrari wins the constructors, but you
Ferrari
have to miss
it.
the entire next season or it doesn't happen.
I mean, how am I going to record the pod with you if I can't watch the whole season?
The pod is an innocent bystander who's hit here, and I record it with someone better than you for a year.
Oh, what? Oh, no. Right, Monaco rolls on. Just for that, Monaco rolls on. I'm here to annoy you for an entire season. I'm not going to give you the season off.
Wow, I was sure you were going to say yes to that one. All right. So the Monaco ticket, and here's the last one. Or have your favorite driver finish second in the Drivers' Championship 2 years in a row by a single point each year and then retire. So whomever you care the most about gets to the precipice of winning the Drivers' Championship and then quits after 2 years.
Should have gone with the big prize at the end because that's a nothing burger. Even if I did, I'm not really a driver focused
But some
person. But
people
let's say I
listening
was.
are.
No,
Some people listening are.
I know. Let's say I was. Let's say let's just pick friend of the show Valtteri. And I want Valtteri to finish second in the drivers' championship twice and then retire. But there's no glamour in that. There's no trophy. There's no.
But second is
It's
pretty
Monaco.
good.
It's Monaco in my
All right.
underpants watching.
All right. So with that, we
Did
have.
that was that the second question? Did I keep that from the second question?
It was well, yes, technically it was the second question. And with that amazing question session, Rob is going to the Monaco Grand Prix on an all expense paid trip. That's what
It's
I
from
did.
courtesy of you. That's happening now, right? You're going to do that for my 50th next year. That was an amazing way of hiding your 50th
Yes,
birthday
those were
present
all
for me.
real. I could make whatever
yeah.
you picked. I was going to make happen.
No, you knew it was the Monaco one. It was like one of those kind of like magicians that forces a card on someone.
I will
You
say
knew
this.
it was.
For your 50th, while I can't afford to send you to Monaco, I will tell you the hotel I stayed at and the pizza place we ate at. Were both very good. And then you can feel free to spend your own money on those recommendations, which I will give you.
Brilliant. What a gift.
The gift that keeps on giving. Let's close out fantasy from last week. And by the way, just to close the would you rather, if anyone had a one they really enjoyed that made it through or made it to the end, feel free to let us know on socials, on email, carrier pigeon, whatever type operation you want to make it happen. But fantasy, last week we were recorded not all that soon after, but we were still in the provisional point realm for Singapore. And so I came in 20th. Rob was 21st. We were separated by a single point. So good job us for being consistent. And for the first time in a long time, Adam, Chicago Gooner, did not win. He won the last 3 races. He did not. The champs team, Steve, 282 points. Big week for Steve. Good job, Steve. That's awesome. Professor's B team, Rakesh, 244. F1 Fantasy HQ, friend of the show, Adam. Patronus RT Fariz, Chicago Gooner Adam, still in 5th. So good job there. Team, and I can't read it. It's Mohammed's team. Team Melly? I'm sorry, it's a little small on my screen here. Ryan, signs sealed, delivered. I like that. Busan with Waystar Royko, Aryadev, Real Karuna, and in 10th, Yank the Mike 217. But it's worth noting, big tie for 11th, and in it, Paul Harris, chuffing funds.
Yes, I saw that. I saw that Paul was up in the towards the top of the leaderboard. It was like, yeah.
It's almost like he spent his whole life in this sport, watches it every week, works on it all day, and he finally made it to 11th.
Yeah, I think as he admits, he kind of sets it and forgets it, I think is the phrase. And then every now and again, he turns up on the leaderboard because even a broken clock is right twice a day. So,
and then for the whole season, just quickly, we are 6 races to go. I am in 20th there as well, 3,658 points. Rob's in 24th, about 200 points behind me. So there's some deltas that are emerging between positions. But for the top, it's Waystar Royko Busan, 3,995 points. That is a good number. That is, I have a second team in Michael Cronje's league, and I'm doing much better than here, and I'm still not that far. So that's a really good number for Busan. Mark Stappen, Fakri, right behind. Niku, Kimi Hakkinen, Fariz, Patronus RT, Andy, who wants to do the quiz, Tails I Win, in 5th. Manuel, San Gaucho F1, Osama, Phoenix AMG, and then Yank the Mike, who we just mentioned from Singapore, Michael in 8th. Chicago Gooner Adam up to 9th for the whole season with his success. And at 10th, Downforce 1, Michael Cronje, who's the amazing fantasy player. So anyway, lots of good stuff going on in fantasy. 6 races left. I don't know why we have a 1-month break to then have a triple header, followed by a 2-week break, followed by a triple header. But okay. Someone thought that was a good idea, so we'll just stew on the fantasy for a bit. We won't hit that for another few weeks. And, yeah, that's all I got. I'm out of content. Contentless.
Right, we were out of content 52 minutes ago.
Yeah.
By the way,
some of us fake it better than others.
You were trying to redeem yourself with your game. All I would say is that in hindsight, looking back at your choices, every single one of your offerings started out sounding really, really good, and then you'd always and then you'd sneak in a little turd at the end that was like means you're never going to pick it. So
I had to, because otherwise, if it was all
I thought
good,
you were always going to. Well, I thought yeah, but if you had almost equal levels of goodness, you were going to give me some real decisions to make. But your turds that you
there
stuck
are no
into
real
them all-
decisions, because if you're a Ferrari fan and you answer the first one, I like a team, it's Ferrari, then you're done. And I go through, would you like Haas to win the championship? No, I'm a Ferrari fan. Would you like? So I had to put that little extra piece in there to make you think. At least that's how it played out on my run this morning when I was thinking of how it would work.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it is better than the infamous game that shall never refer to ever again. That was just an absolute car wreck.
The mashup
Um,
of Queen
yeah,
Latifah and Nikki Latifi into Queen Latifi.
yes, yes, yeah. That
So good. There's something there, man. There's still something there.
it's dead, Brian. It's dead. But yeah, I think so. Hopefully, we can try to see if we can get someone on for next week, so we can actually talk to other human beings rather than come up with more ridiculous stuff than we just did. We'll probably sneak a little. Oh, I didn't even mention the name of the team. But how did I forget that? The team that I have with my Formula One players in there, they are Brackley FC. It's for where Paul is, and home stadium, Silverstone Stadium. Uh, what I do
You
hope,
didn't work Dirty Side into any of it?
no, but what I
Why
did look
not?
for
What's
was
wrong with you?
well, because we got a little bit of a dirty side link going on, insofar as that there is a central midfielder that I can't afford at the moment. But as soon as I've got the 3.5 million bucks to buy him, Harris is coming into the team.
A lot of
There is
footballers out there named Saperstein too?
no, there's none.
Yeah,
And even what's more annoying is the only Vale that used to be there looks like he's fallen off the game because he's not really playing anymore. So yeah, great.
Well, we all
Anyway,
do.
on that,
We all do what we can to survive during this time frame. I've said this before, but it's gotten worse. Every time I cook anything in the microwave, I use an F1 driver's number to end it. Every time. If something needs more time, I put 16 seconds on the end in honor of Charles Leclerc. 44 seconds instead of 45. I mean, everything. I'm finding F1 ways to make my life fun, and I'm struggling, and it's week 1 already. So, Rob, you got to watch out for your boy. We will be back in 1 week's time with what I'm assuming will be more magical content, and we can't wait to talk to everybody soon. We hope you guys all have a great week. Be well, be safe. See you soon, everybody.